Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you can do one of two things: upgrade your mind or lock you inside the same patterns that have been holding you back. Most people never truly think. They react. They mistake speed for intelligence, noise for clarity, and impulse for insight. And because of that, they keep repeating the same mistakes, the same frustrations, the same cycles, without ever realizing why. This audiobook is your interruption, your reset, your chance to break the automatic patterns and take back control of your mind. Inside these chapters, you'll learn how to slow your thoughts, sharpen your decisions, and finally, lead your life with intention instead of instinct. Because here's the paradox no one talks about. The moment you learn to think slowly, your entire life starts moving faster, cleaner, calmer, smarter. If you're ready for that shift, let's begin. Chapter 1. Slow down or stay stuck. The hidden cost of mental speed. Slow down or stay stuck. These aren't motivational words. They're a warning, a crossroads you step into every single day without noticing. And the truth is simple. Your mind moves too fast for your own good. It jumps, assumes, reacts. It fills in blanks that were never missing. It creates stories, conclusions, and emotional storms long before reality has a chance to speak. Your brain loves speed. Speed feels safe. Speed feels smart. Speed whispers, "I already know what this means." But more often than not, speed lies. Imagine this. Someone texts you, "We need to talk." Before the next message even appears, your heart drops, your stomach tightens, and your mind instantly writes a disaster script. Did I do something wrong? Are they angry? Did I mess up? That entire emotional collapse happened in 2 seconds, without evidence, context, or truth. Your mind didn't think, it reacted. And fast thinking always reacts first, understands later. Here's the real hidden cost of mental speed. It makes you blind. Blind to nuance, blind to intention, blind to the possibility that the story you just created isn't real. Most people confuse speed with intelligence, but intelligence isn't reacting fast, it's seeing clearly, and you cannot see clearly until you slow down. Fast thinking destroys clarity in three major ways. First, you jump to wrong conclusions. A client sends a vague message. You panic and start fixing something that wasn't broken. A family member makes a rushed comment. You assume disrespect, and an argument begins over nothing. Fast thinking makes tiny moments feel like emergencies. Second, you misunderstand everything. Fast thinking listens to emotion, not meaning. You hear tone, not truth. You hear your fear louder than their words. You hear what you're afraid of, not what they're actually saying. Third, you emotionally overreact. Most emotional suffering doesn't come from reality. It comes from reacting before understanding. If you paused for 10 seconds, just 10, half of your problems would dissolve. Fast thinking fuels emotion. Slow thinking fuels wisdom. Slow thinking isn't laziness, it's mastery. It forces you to challenge the first draft your mind gives you, and the first draft is always a lie. In business, fast thinking says, "This looks good, take it." Slow thinking asks, "What am I not seeing yet?" In relationships, fast thinking says, "They're attacking me." Slow thinking asks, "Are they stressed, tired, or overwhelmed? Is this about me or their day?" In personal goals, fast thinking says, "I'll start tomorrow." Slow thinking replies, "If not now, when? And what am I avoiding?" Slow thinking isn't comfortable, but the truth never lives in comfort. Pause first. Move second. People don't stay stuck because they're not intelligent. They stay stuck because they live inside one mental pattern, a fast one. They don't notice triggers. They don't question beliefs. They don't analyze reactions. They repeat the same emotional loops, the same misunderstandings, the same regrets, the same excuses, and they call it life. But it's not life. It's autopilot. Speed without direction. Movement without progress. You're running fast, but you're running in circles. If you don't change how you think, nothing in your life will change. Here's how to slow down in practical, powerful ways. Step 1. Ask yourself, what story is my mind creating right now? This interrupts fast thinking instantly. Step 2. Observe before reacting. Give yourself 10 seconds before responding. You'll be shocked by how much clarity appears. Step 3. Verify. Don't assume. Ask for details and context before letting emotion lead. Step 4. Breathe before speaking. One slow breath shifts you out of reaction mode. Step 5. Notice your triggers. Every reaction has a root, and slow thinking helps you find it. Carry these anchors with you. Fast thinking feels smart, but it makes you blind. Pause first, move second. If you don't change how you think, nothing in your life will change. They are your mental armor. Slow thinking is not the opposite of intelligence. It is the doorway into it. It helps you see people clearly, see opportunities clearly, and see yourself clearly. You either slow down or you stay stuck. This chapter is your first step toward breaking the unconscious patterns that have controlled your life for years.
Chapter 2. Kill the first thought. Your brain's automatic lies. Your first thought is not truth. It is not wisdom. It is not intelligence. The first thought is simply a reflex, an automatic burst fired from the oldest part of your brain. It comes from fear, ego, insecurity, and habits formed long before you ever became aware of them. Yet most people build their entire life on that first thought. They trust it, defend it, act on it, argue from it, and ruin relationships because of it. Here is the repetition phrase for this chapter. Your first thought is the loudest, not the smartest. Think about your day. You see someone who doesn't smile at you. Your first thought says, "They don't like me." Someone replies with a short message. Your first thought whispers, "They're annoyed." You make a small mistake. Your first thought screams, "You're failing again." None of these thoughts are based on evidence. They are emotional guesses, mental reflexes created by past experiences, old fears, and outdated beliefs. And unless you learn to kill the first thought, your life will always be controlled by ghosts from your past. Your brain loves shortcuts. It hates uncertainty. So the moment something happens, your mind throws the fastest interpretation it can find at the situation. That quick interpretation is not truth. It is survival. It is your brain trying to protect you by assuming the worst before you even have time to understand what is actually happening. This is why the first thought is emotional, not intelligent. Intelligence lives in the second thought. Wisdom appears after the pause. Clarity shows up only when you stop long enough to question what your mind is telling you. This is where your transformation begins. Killing the first thought does not mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming aware. It means interrupting that moment where your automatic reaction tries to seize control. It means stepping between stimulus and response. And that tiny space, just a few seconds, is where your entire life can change. Here is your second repetition phrase: interrupt the automatic. When you interrupt the automatic, you regain control of your choices, your tone, your reactions, and your behavior. You stop living ruled by impulsive emotion and start living guided by conscious intention. Let's walk through real-life examples. You're about to judge someone, their appearance, their tone, their attitude. Stop. That judgment is your first thought. Kill it. Ask yourself, what else could be true? Maybe they're tired. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe you're completely misreading them. Killing the first thought saves you from creating stories that never existed. Another example. Someone says something you don't like. Your first thought pushes you to defend yourself instantly because the ego hates feeling threatened. Kill it. Don't jump. Don't fire back. Don't explain yourself immediately. Ego reactions destroy communication. Killing the first thought creates space for calm, clarity, and intelligent response. Another example, you assume the worst automatically because your brain is wired to protect you by imagining danger before it exists. Someone doesn't text back. Your first thought says, They're avoiding me, or they're upset. Kill it. You don't know the truth yet. Let facts arrive before your emotions take over. Here is the third repetition phrase: name it, don't obey it. When the first thought rises, label it. This is fear. This is ego. This is insecurity. This is old programming. Once you name the thought, it loses its power. You become the observer, not the prisoner. Now let's talk about the exercises that retrain your mind. These are simple but life-changing if practiced consistently. Exercise 1. Count to 3 before speaking. This tiny delay can save your relationships, reputation, and peace. Those 3 seconds create a bridge from reaction to reflection. Exercise 2. Ask yourself, what else could be true? Most first thoughts collapse when you consider alternate explanations. It forces the mind to slow down and think intelligently. Exercise 3. Label the thought. When you feel a reaction rising, don't act on it. Name it. This is anger. This is fear. This is jealousy. This is insecurity. Once labeled, the emotion loses its grip. Exercise 4. Challenge the story. Ask, do I have evidence for this, or am I guessing? Most first thoughts are guesses dressed up as certainty. Exercise 5. Delay your conclusion. Let conversations unfold. Let information arrive. Let the moment breathe. Most mistakes happen because people form conclusions too early. Killing the first thought is not about changing your personality. It's about upgrading your operating system. It shifts you from emotional instinct to conscious awareness. When you learn to pause, interrupt, label, and question, you stop living from outdated programming and start living with intention. Here's the truth. Your mind will always create a first thought. You cannot stop that, but you can stop obeying it. You can stop letting it define your behavior, your tone, your decisions, and your identity. Power does not come from your first reaction. Power comes from the space where you choose a better second reaction. This chapter is your invitation to step into that power. Remember your phrases. Your first thought is the loudest, not the smartest. Interrupt the automatic. Name it. Don't obey it. Master these 3 skills, and you break the cycle of emotional reflexes that have controlled you for years. You stop living from fear and start living from clarity. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop being predictable and start becoming intentional. And now that you've learned how to silence your first reaction, it's time to explore the deeper skill that amplifies your influence, your presence, and your emotional power. You have killed the automatic. Now it's time to shape how the world feels you.
Chapter 3. Think before you speak. The smart pause. Words are power. But the world is full of people who throw their words like stones, without aiming, without calm, without thought. You are not going to be one of them. Today's chapter is about one of the most underestimated habits of powerful people, the smart pause, the art of thinking before you speak, the discipline of giving your words weight by delaying them. Because the truth is simple, you are judged more by what you say than what you deeply are, and the people who master the pause become magnetic, respected, unshakable. Let's go deep. Section 1. Why most people speak too fast. Most people talk to fill silence. They talk to avoid discomfort. They talk because they fear that if they don't respond instantly, they'll appear slow, unsure, or unintelligent. But the opposite is true. Fast talkers often look insecure, confused, and uncontrolled. Think about it. When someone answers immediately without thinking, what do we assume? They're reacting, not reasoning. When someone rambles, they're not clear, even to themselves. When someone gives over-explanations, long justifications, too many words, they're trying to compensate for something. Impulsive talking leads to misunderstandings, regret, weak impressions, emotional explosions, and arguments that didn't even need to happen. Most importantly, Impulsive speech exposes your weakness before your strength, but you're here to sound intentional, and that begins with a pause. Section 2. The 2-second pause, the rule of smart people. The 2-second pause rule. Before you speak, inhale gently, hold the thought, give yourself 2 seconds, then respond. 2 seconds is short enough to sound natural, but long enough to transform how others perceive you. When you pause, your words sound deliberate, your emotions settle, your tone becomes calmer, your presence becomes stronger, your intelligence becomes obvious. Powerful communicators don't rush, they choose their words. CEOs pause, judges pause, negotiators pause, public speakers pause, leaders pause, and people who don't pause, they say, "I didn't mean it like that. Sorry, that came out wrong. Let me explain." The pause eliminates that from your life. Section 3. Psychological power. Why pausing makes you look smarter. 1. Pausing signals confidence. Only insecure people rush. 2. Pausing improves clarity. Your brain organizes thoughts in that tiny break. 3. Pausing builds authority. Calm speakers command rooms. 4. Pausing earns respect. Silence makes others feel your presence. 5. Pausing prevents emotional reactions. It dissolves anger and defensiveness. 6. Pausing increases perceived intelligence. You sound thoughtful. 7. Pausing makes others reveal more. Silence invites information. If you want to be taken seriously, master the pause. Section 4. Real-life scenarios. How the smart pause changes everything. Scenario 1. Someone criticizes you before emotional reaction. After, calm response or strategic question. Scenario 2. Someone asks a difficult question before panic and rush. After, controlled, confident clarity. Scenario 3. Argument. Before, emotional chaos. After, strategic thinking. Scenario 4. Meeting. Before, competing to speak. After, fewer words, more impact. Scenario 5. Social conversation. Before, oversharing. After, controlled charm. When you pause, you lead the moment. When you rush, the moment controls you. Section 5. What you must stop doing. Immediately. Stop interrupting. Stop rushing your answers. Stop filling silence. Stop speaking without understanding. Stop over-explaining. Stop talking from nervousness. Removing these habits instantly changes your communication power. Section 6. What you must start doing from today. 1. Use the 2-second pause in every conversation. 2. Breathe before you speak. 3. Say less, but mean more. 4. Never interrupt. Let others finish. 5. Repeat this mantra. Pause to think. Pause to lead. Pause to win. Section 7. The transformation. How people will see you now. Use this skill consistently and you will notice. People take your words seriously. Arguments reduce, you appear wiser, calmer, more confident. Social presence becomes stronger. Misunderstandings disappear. Emotional control increases. The smart pause is not just a speaking technique. It is a life advantage. Your words are your identity. Your pauses are your power. Your control is your strength. When you pause, you are not weak. You are intentional. You rise above noise. You communicate with leadership, not fear. You have mastered one of the strongest tools of influence. Now it's time to sharpen your next tool.
Chapter. Delay your reactions. The discipline that separates winners. In life, there is one discipline that instantly separates the mature from the impulsive, the powerful from the predictable, the calm from the chaotic. That discipline is the ability to delay your reaction. Reacting fast is not intelligence. Reacting fast is emotional survival, a leftover instinct from a brain that evolved to respond instantly to danger. But your life is not a jungle, and every disagreement, message, or challenge is not an emergency. Yet most people still react as if everything requires immediate emotional response. This chapter teaches you a new truth. Slow reactions are strong reactions. Think about it. Most of your problems, misunderstandings, arguments, regrets, embarrassments, broken relationships, lost opportunities, did not come from what happened. They came from how quickly you reacted to what happened. Quick reactions feel natural, but they are expensive. They cost your peace, your clarity, and your long-term decisions. The instant reaction is emotional, impulsive, fueled by ego, insecurity, or fear. But the delayed reaction, the reaction that comes after stillness and thought, that is where intelligence lives. That is where strength grows. When you delay your reaction, you gain leverage. You buy yourself clarity. You create space for your mind to see options your emotions couldn't see. Even a 10-second pause can change everything. 10 seconds is enough time for your anger to cool by 1 degree. Enough time for your ego to lose momentum. Enough time for your second thought and your trained mind to catch up to the moment. This small delay is the foundation of emotional maturity. Here is your first repetition phrase of this chapter. Slow reactions are strong reactions. When you slow down, you don't lose power. You gain it. Let's talk about the deeper reason this matters. Speed lowers accuracy. This is true in communication, business, relationships, and personal growth. Famous CEOs are known for waiting before making decisions, not because they are uncertain, but because they know time sharpens judgment. The greatest athletes respond. They do not react. They wait for the opening, the signal, the right moment. They understand that timing is strategy, not hesitation. Time is an ally. Time is clarity. And here is your second repetition phrase. Time is your greatest thinker. When you wait, 10 seconds before responding in anger, 1 minute before sending that emotional message, 1 hour before arguing back, 24 hours before making a major decision, you transform from reactive to strategic. You shift from emotional survival to intelligent action. Let's go through examples you will recognize in your own life. Someone says something rude. Your fast reaction wants to fire back. But if you delay just a moment, you might see their stress, their insecurity, their misunderstanding. You respond calmly instead of escalating the tension. Or someone sends a short, cold message. Your fast reaction assumes attitude. But if you give it time, you might realize they were busy, distracted, or not even thinking about tone. You reply with clarity instead of offense. Or you receive unexpected bad news. Your fast reaction panics. But if you delay, breathe, and let time think with you, you often find a better solution, a clearer strategy, or a calmer acceptance. Every delay gives you back control. This is what emotional maturity truly is. Not the absence of emotion, but the ability to wait before reacting. Maturity is the space between feeling and acting. People who cannot wait repeat the same cycles over and over. Anger cycles, insecurity cycles, fear cycles, overthinking cycles, self-sabotage cycles. But people who can delay reactions break those cycles permanently. They break generational patterns. They break self-destructive habits. They break the illusion that everything requires urgency. The delay is the difference between the person who ruins their day with one sentence and the person who protects their peace no matter what happens. The delay is the difference between the person who destroys relationships with instant emotion and the person who strengthens relationships with calm interpretation. The delay is the difference between the person who moves impulsively and the person who moves intentionally. Now let's talk about the practical drills that build this discipline. Drill 1, the 10-second rule. Before speaking in anger, count to 10 in your mind. This short pause rewires your emotional reaction and gives your clarity time to rise. Drill 2, the 24-hour rule for big decisions. If the decision has long-term consequences, give yourself a full day. Emotions fade, thought sharpens, perspective returns. Drill 3, walk away before responding. Literally remove your body from the intensity of the moment. Movement breaks emotional momentum. Drill 4, breathe before you reply in text. A single breath prevents sending messages you will regret 15 minutes later. Drill 5. Ask yourself, do I need to react right now? Most situations do not require urgency. The question exposes your automatic impulse and gives you a choice. These drills strengthen your emotional muscles. They train your mind to pause, evaluate, and choose instead of react blindly. They help you build the life-changing skill of responding with intention rather than instinct. Your final repetition phrase for this chapter is pause, then choose. That is the core of emotional maturity. The pause gives you clarity. The choice gives you control. Without the pause, you are a prisoner of your emotions. With the pause, you become the master of them. Let's conclude this chapter with the principle that ties everything together. Delaying your reaction is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the discipline that separates winners from the emotionally unstable. It is the difference between chaos and control, between regret and respect, between repeating the past and shaping the future. You have learned to pause between feeling and acting. You have learned that time is not your enemy. It is your greatest thinker. Now that you've built the power to delay your reactions, it's time to learn how to control the internal voice that creates those reactions in the first place. You mastered the pause. Now master the narrative inside your mind.
Chapter 5. Build mental models. Think in systems, not moments. If your mind doesn't have tools, it will rely on emotions. If your thinking has no structure, it will collapse under pressure. And if your decisions are made in the moment, you will always repeat your past. This chapter is about upgrading the operating system of your mind. Because smart thinkers don't guess, they use mental models. Repeat this line with me. The mind needs tools, not guesses. Mental models are simple frameworks that help you understand reality. They help you make smarter predictions, interpret situations correctly, and avoid emotional decision-making. They turn chaos into clarity. They turn confusion into structure. They turn reactive thinking into strategic thinking. Let's break this down piece by piece. 1. Why mental models matter more than raw intelligence. Most people use feelings to navigate life. Smart people use frameworks. Your emotions say, I feel attacked. Your model says, what is the long-term pattern? Your emotions say, I want this now. Your model says, what happens after this? Your emotions say, this is bad. Your model says, compared to what? Mental models pull you out of the moment and force you to think in systems, in patterns, in probabilities, in consequences. The moment is emotional. The system is logical. And as you've learned in previous chapters, you cannot trust your emotional brain to make long-term decisions. Repeat this. Don't think about the moment. Think about the system. 2. Mental model. Number 1. Second-order thinking. The average person only thinks about the first consequence. Smart thinkers consider the second, third, and fourth. Example, you post something online. You get praise. You feel good. That's first-order thinking. Second-order thinking asks, what behavior am I now training myself to rely on? Am I becoming addicted to validation? What happens when it disappears? Another example, you skip the gym today. First-order consequence, you feel comfortable. Second-order consequence, you weaken your discipline habit. Second-order thinking requires one question. And then what? If you train yourself to ask that one question, you will automatically make wiser decisions. Transformation task. Before any decision, pause and ask, and then what? Do it daily until it becomes unconscious. 3. Mental model number 2. Inversion. Instead of asking, what should I do to succeed? Ask, what would guarantee failure? This model, made famous by Charlie Munger, flips your thinking. To have a peaceful life, ask, what creates chaos? Impulsive reactions, poor boundaries, emotional outbursts, talking too much, avoiding responsibility. Avoid those, and peace will follow automatically. To improve communication, ask, what destroys conversations? Interrupting, defending your ego, assuming intentions, speaking without thinking. Remove these, and your communication improves instantly. Inversion is powerful because success is often built by avoiding dumb mistakes rather than doing extraordinary things. Repeat this. Clarity comes from removing the obvious mistakes. Transformation task. For every goal, write down the easiest way to fail. Avoid those actions daily. Your results will multiply. 4. Mental model. Number 3. Probability. Thinking. Most people think in absolutes. Smart thinkers think in likelihoods. They don't ask, will this work? They ask, what is the probability this works, and is it worth the risk? Probability thinking removes emotion and replaces it with realism. It helps you stop overreacting to small events and focus on patterns. Example: one person disrespects you. Is everyone out to get you? No. Probability says it's an isolated event, not a global threat. Example: you fail once. Does that mean you're incapable? No. Probability says it's normal and expected. Example: you meet a charming person. Should you trust them fully? No. Probability says charm is cheap, consistency is expensive. Repeat this. Slow thinking turns confusion into understanding. Transformation task. When stressed, ask, what's the actual probability this matters in a year? This one question can save you from 70% of emotional spirals. 5. Mental models turn life into systems. Once you think in models, decisions become automatic and clean. You stop drowning in overthinking because you finally have structure. You start seeing patterns in people. You start predicting consequences. You start choosing calmly instead of reacting emotionally. Your mind becomes a strategic instrument, not a battlefield. Repeat this. Clarity comes from structure. When your thinking becomes structured, your life becomes structured. 6. Your transformation practice. Simple daily mental model drills. Here are the 3 drills that will rewire your thinking. Drill 1. Second-order thinking. Every decision, and then what? Drill 2. Inversion. Every goal. How can I fail? Then avoid those actions. Drill 3. Probability thinking. Every stress. How likely is this a real problem? Practice these for 30 days, and your brain will change. Not emotionally, not spiritually, mechanically, like updating your mental software. You will feel calmer. You will feel smarter. You will feel more in control. Mental models build a structured mind, but structure alone isn't enough. You need the discipline to apply it consistently, especially under pressure. You've learned how to think in systems. Chapter 6. Make decisions like a scientist. Evidence over emotion. If you want your life to become stable, predictable, and calm, you must change the way you make decisions. Most people decide based on how they feel. Smart people decide based on what is true. This chapter teaches you the discipline of scientific thinking, an approach that removes ego, reduces emotional mistakes, and reveals the smartest path forward. It replaces the question, how do I feel right now? With the far better question, what does the evidence say? Repeat this phrase. Test your assumptions. Science-based thinking frees you from emotional reactions. It stops the instinct to assume, to exaggerate, to fear the worst. Instead of assuming someone is ignoring you, you ask, what evidence do I have? Instead of assuming you're failing, you ask, what data am I looking at? Instead of assuming your life isn't improving, you ask, what does the trend show? When you think like a scientist, your personal stories become smaller and your clarity becomes greater. You stop making permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Let's break down the core idea. Scientists don't rely on feelings. They rely on hypotheses. They do not say, this will work. They say, let's test if this works. They do not say, this is a fact. They say, this is what the current evidence suggests. They do not take failure personally. They treat failure as data. When something doesn't work, they don't panic, spiral, or judge themselves. They simply adjust the experiment. This is where true transformation happens. Instead of telling yourself, I'm bad at routines, you ask, which routine failed and why? Instead of saying, I can't stay disciplined, you ask, which method didn't suit my psychology? Instead of saying, I always ruin relationships, you ask, which patterns showed up again and what triggered them? Repeat this phrase. Run the experiment. Let's apply this to real life. Imagine you want to wake up early. Emotional thinking says, I'll start tomorrow. I'll try harder. Scientific thinking says, let me test 3 wake-up strategies for 7 days each. Strategy A, sleep earlier. Strategy B, put the alarm far away. Strategy C, use a morning reward. You test, you measure, you adjust, no drama, no guilt, just data. Another example, improving communication. Emotional thinking says, everyone misunderstands me. Science-based thinking says, let me test different communication behaviors. For 1 week, you slow down before responding. For the next week, you rephrase before defending. For the next, you ask clarifying questions. After each week, you analyze what changed. You run the experiment. You learn from patterns, not feelings. This mindset also transforms your relationship with failure. In emotional thinking, failure feels like proof that something is wrong with you. In scientific thinking, failure is simply a result. You don't collapse. You collect. You don't shame. You study. You don't repeat. You revise. Failure becomes information, not identity. Repeat this phrase. Emotion is the signal. Evidence is the decision. Emotion can tell you where to look, but it cannot tell you what to do. Emotion can highlight a problem, but it cannot solve it. Emotion can warn you, guide you, and motivate you. But the final decision must come from facts, not feelings. This is emotional maturity at its highest level, using feelings as data, not as a compass. Here's the transformation practice for this chapter. 1. Evidence. Log. Every time you feel strongly about something, write 2 questions. What emotion am I feeling? What evidence do I have? You will immediately notice the gap between feelings and facts. 2. Hypothesis. Decisions. Before trying anything new, write, I predict my will happen because I. Then test it. Collect the results. Adjust the method. 3. Experiment routine. Choose 1 habit each month. Test 3 versions of it. Keep data, not judgments. If it works, you keep it. If it doesn't, you refine it. You become a scientist of your own life. 4. Fact-checking thoughts. When you think, they don't like me, or I'll fail, or this is hopeless, stop and ask, where is the evidence? This one question destroys 60% of emotional overthinking. 5. Emotion and evidence. Split. Whenever you're overwhelmed, speak this sentence. I am feeling all whole, but the evidence says all whole. This separates your temporary feelings from your stable reality. This chapter gives you a new mental identity, the identity of someone who thinks clearly, decides wisely, and acts without emotional chaos. When you combine scientific thinking with the slow-thinking discipline from earlier chapters, your decisions become sharper, calmer, and dramatically more accurate. You stop guessing, you stop reacting, you start understanding. Let's close with the repetition phrases one more time. Test your assumptions. Run the experiment. Emotion is the signal. Evidence is the decision. You have now learned how to remove ego, separate fact from feeling, and make decisions rooted in reality. This is the thinking style of innovators, leaders, and winners. But there's still one more skill you need, the ability to communicate this clarity without conflict, without ego, and without losing control. You've learned to think like a scientist, now learn to speak like a strategist. You've just learned the truth most people avoid. Your life only improves when your thinking slows down. Fast thoughts lie. Slow thoughts lead. Your first thought reacts. Your second thought chooses. Your delayed reaction protects you. Your mental models guide you. And your scientific mind keeps you from repeating the same mistakes again and again. Remember this. Clarity is created. Discipline is trained. Wisdom is practiced. No one is born a strong thinker. You build it through pause, through reflection, through the courage to question your own mind. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, slow your mind before every decision, every reaction, every conversation. Count to 3. Question your first thought. Choose the wiser one. If you do that, you won't just think better. You will live better, lead better, and become the calmest mind in every room you enter.